Apple Vision Pro was, well, to people on the outside, a VR headset, but to Apple, they never refer to it as a VR headset. It's considered spatial computing, and basically it is a $3,500 headset that is not VR but spatial computing. Apple has this thing where they always make their things distinctly different. There are certain things, words that they do not use. Like, for example, artificial intelligence. They call it AI, but they make sure you call it Apple intelligence and not artificial intelligence. They always got to put, this is the Apple way of things being done, right? So, of course, they didn't want to just make this called a VR headset. It was called spatial computing, its own thing, right? Because it needs to set itself apart from the other headsets. And it did that. I will give it. It made itself clearly different than all the headsets. And that's because of how damn expensive it was. Being $3,000 something dollars, pretty much after taxes, you're going to be spending upwards of $4,000 for this one headset, which to anyone is an absurd price. And I mean, I guess the capabilities and the things that this thing can do is crazy. But it's a really hard sell for $4,000. And I get it. Apple's supposed to be a premium. For example, when you look at Tesla, the Cybertruck, that thing is iconic. Everyone's not going to be driving a Cybertruck, but that's what kind of brings the uniqueness. It's its brand. It's recognizable. Being unique, there are some things that I just won't be able to afford with because I'm just not meant to, right? Status symbols, right? There's a bunch of those out there. And this was supposed to be another one of those. However, when it comes to Apple, it's like, for example, look at the iPhone. There are people that don't make a lot of money that have an iPhone, right? And so even though the iPhones are always bringing this tier of like being a high tier luxury device, there's still some level of it being accessible, right? When you look at Macs, you can get a cheap Mac. Used AirPods, you can get it cheap. This is the one real thing in Apple's lineup where it does not have another counterpart to it that makes it accessible at all. This is supposed to be its own thing, which I think it's clear there's no way Apple expected this thing to be a major commercial success, mainly because since it launched, we haven't heard anything. At WDC, we know there's supposed to be some new software features coming in a couple months, but really this thing is dead. This thing, when it launched, a lot of people were like, look at this thing, right? It's you had people wearing them in public and things like that. Like for the first about couple weeks, there was a lot of mainstream, and then after that, that's it. Whereas you look at something like the Cybertruck, that thing's been like hyped for years, and now that it's finally out there, and it's like, I'm just comparing that because that's the first thing that kind of like, sorry, I had to adjust something, that comes to the top of my head when I think about, things like in my immediate idea that I could compare this thing to. But I mean, like, to be fair, it is supposed to be its own thing. That's how Apple's pushing it. But when you can't, like, even though Apple's doing their things their Apple way, in the mainstream media, people are going to look at this as a VR headset, right? It's like, for example, the Steam Deck is something I can compare this to. The Steam Deck, people will look at it and think it is the Nintendo Switch-like, right? And now, is it mobile gaming, handheld gaming? Sure, but the Steam Deck is in a league of its own. It is a completely different thing than the Nintendo Switch. It is more of a computer than it is a mobile game thing like the Switch. But because it's a mobile handheld, in the mainstream media, people are going to compare it. There's going to be some comparisons made to the Switch, to the DS. That's an even bigger stark difference if you want to compare the Steam Deck to the DS. This is kind of the same thing because this thing is it does a lot of things in its own way, like being able to point at your computer and type. Like the things that the Apple Vision can do is unique, and can't exactly be replicated on a lot of devices. It is a first in a lot of ways, but it cannot escape that comparison to a virtual reality headset. And, you know, because of how expensive it is, it's not like people are going to go out and buy this thing. Even people that have money, right? People that are balling. I can't see people balling buy this thing, and they did it. Oh, excuse me. I mean, like, it's not, like, it doesn't really add anything, like, to your day-to-day life. Sure, it's like a futuristic thing. Like, looking through it, it looks like the future, being able to see all these screens and everything. It's like what you see in sci-fi, but at the same time, you have to carry this thing. It's pretty heavy compared to, from what most reviewers are saying. And, like, why would I put this screen on to look at another screen? Like, if I want to look at my MacBook, I gotta have my Mac right here, when I could just look at my MacBook, right? I mean, I think this is like, it adds things, but it's just, it's like it adds things to your life, but it's really like, for $3,000, especially if you have a dual monitor setup, I think that kind of kills the Apple Vision Pro, which you can get for a third of the price. Yeah, no. Mm-mm. Now, I'm excited to see, you know, there is some things that's supposed to be coming out, like the iPhone 16 in about a month, which I'm looking to get. Gonna upgrade my iPhone 15 Plus. I low-key regret getting it. I should have just got the 15 Pro. But anyway, I'm excited to see how this interacts with the new Apple Intelligence. I doubt that there's gonna be some huge change to throw this thing back in the mainstream. I just think it was like a test thing, maybe for developers and stuff like that. But really, this was not, I don't think Apple expected this to be a very successful device. And so we shall see. Maybe I've heard people talking about like maybe getting an Apple Vision SE or something like that. But I just think like, if like a cheaper version comes out, it's gonna have to cut on some features. I'm just trying to think what kind of features could be cut. Like is the headset gonna be made cheaper? I can't, like, I'm having trouble visioning Apple Vision, haha, no pun intended, how they would cut back on some features to a headset, especially because like this is called the Vision Pro, so would they do just the Apple Vision and then the two, but then it'd be kind of be different. Like, you're getting a refresh to this, like, I don't know, like, I think the next Apple Vision that will come out would have to tinker on the Apple Vision Pro that we had, right? So maybe they'll do like an Apple Vision Pro 2 and then an Apple Vision. I don't know. But I was thinking about this thing, and I was just like, man, does anyone really remember this thing? Like, I think this thing, like, dead. And I think it was kind of like one of those things where it would be hype for a minute. It's like a single player game, right? It'll get hype, very hype when it first comes out, and then it will die. Like Tears of the Kingdom, it had its time, and now, you know, the ship has sailed. There's no DLC for it. Elden Ring was dead for a little bit, but now it's coming back with DLC. Maybe the Apple Vision Pro will get DLC, and then we'll see Kai Cenat streaming with it. Anyway, I just want to do this video talking about the Apple Vision Pro. Let me know y'all thoughts about the Apple Vision Pro in the comments down below. I'm low-key hyped for the iPhone 16. Supposed to be some cool stuff for it. But anyway, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.